Hey, thanks for taking the time here. I love that black and white. That's pretty cool, man.
Just trying to keep it crispy. You know what I mean?
I got to get something that makes me look taller. So maybe I should do this or something. I don't know what to do here. So.
my legs do a good job of that for me.
Well, that makes one of us, I suppose. Anyways, yeah, I guess we could start off with 2020. That was quite a year for you guys in more than one way, wasn't it?
Yeah, man. I mean, it was a lot of big things were happening for the whole world, but definitely internally with our band, there was definitely some shifts and some changes happening. But all for the positive. We're all just stoked and excited for the next chapter.
Now, when I was coming to work today, of course, I thought of some of my friends and bands that have played drums and became singers, but that was like kind of at the beginning of the band. Like, for example, Brad from Three Doors Down or Sully from Godsmack, Dave Grohl, that kind of thing. But that just is really intriguing to me. Have you ever sung or led a band before?
Yeah. So I had another band called Hell or High Water a few years back that kind of slowed down maybe about 4 or 5 years ago. A little less than that, and I just sang in that band. So there's definitely been a little bit of experience, but I mean, with Atreyu, it's just a whole nother beast, it's like there's a whole nother energy and you're always kind of figuring out the energy of the different people on stage. It's such a huge part of the experience, so it's a whole nother beast. And last summer, actually, strangely enough, 2019 rather, we did a tour in Europe, and like 2 or 3 days before we left, our old singer had injured his back. So he's like, I can't fly for 12 hours on a plane. I can't do it. So we're like, shit, man, we have all these big festivals booked. And it's like, by this point, to cancel the European tour would have cost us so much money and just been a horrible idea. So we called our current drummer and we're like, hey, can you come to the UK in 3 days? We're going to have one rehearsal in England, and then we're going to play a bunch of big festivals. And it was like, sure. So we did it, and it worked out. So, I mean, it was kind of a weird bit of prophecy, I guess, but it was the first kind of feeling of feeling how the band felt with that lineup. So that definitely made it a little more comfortable in transitioning.
Well, I guess, feeling how the band felt for sure. But I mean, when you go from like hiding behind a drum kit to all of a sudden now you're the guy, you can't do anything with your hands. It's like that whole, it's like, it was like way more involved than people realize probably.
For sure. And I mean, if anyone that knows me knows, like, I'm a very big, loud personality. Like I'm a very like in your face kind of person. I come in very hot, in life, but, so it's like, it suits me, like, for me, it's like letting the rabid dog out of the cage. It's like, I get to run around now. Like I don't have to sit behind a thing, like there's always that joke where like, there's that big part of me that just wanted to go full Lars as a drummer and just be like running circles around the drum kit and just like, check me out. Like he's a front man in his own right behind the drums, he's fucking Lars. And that's why, but
right.
It was
that's true. Yeah.
For me, it's just like, cool. It's an opportunity to like connect even closer with the fans and like, just get up in people's faces and just go off, really trying to pump up that cardio on stage. This is my opportunity,
Yeah, this is your chance. Yeah. What kind of drummers did you grow up idolizing?
I loved, like you just kind of said, like the Dave Grohls of the world, I never grew up really like having focus or being attracted to like the real technical side. I loved dudes that just sat down and beat the shit out of drums, and that's kind of been my style always, is kind of been more of a meat and potatoes drummer, and just like feel and groove is most important, to me. So like Dave Grohl, even like Chad Smith was a big one growing up from the Peppers. He's like, can go a little bit on the technical side, but the dude just has so much feel. It's like ridiculous. But yeah, just dudes like that were kind of huge to me and really made me play drums. Like I wanted to play drums like that,
Yeah, Chad actually grew up about 10, 15 minutes away from here. And of course, we've known him for years. And I'll never forget the story he told me. His mom would turn on and off the lights when she got home from grocery shopping, when he was downstairs banging on the drum. So that he knew that she was home. It was kind of a fun, kind of a neat story.
Awesome, man. Yeah, we all went through that. I grew up in, apartments, and I'd have that window of time. I'd rush home from school and have that window of time between like 2:30 and 4, where like no one was home from work yet. So I could get a solid hour in drumming in an apartment before like I'd get the complex security guard banging on my door and, people like getting pissed. So I've been there.
Yeah. And nowadays you can probably play like they got those electronic drum kits or something. You probably play quiet, right?
Now they have things where you can literally put things on your hands and feet and play air drums and have real sounds in your headphones. That
Oh, really?
exists. That exists. It's
Yeah.
nuts.
So when Kyle comes in the band, are you teaching him how to play the older songs?
I mean, yes and no. So Kyle actually played drums in my other band, Hell or High Water. So that's where the connection there is. So I've already gone through the phase of having to be confident enough to relinquish drum responsibilities to somebody else in a band. I already found that in Kyle. So because with Hell or High Water, it was like, I'm going to sing in this band. I got to find a drummer that I don't have to worry about. I don't want to sit and think about drums all the time. I want someone that's honestly better than me. Kyle was that guy, and he's got such a phenomenal style of his own and a groove of his own. And so when he came in, it was like we had those talks where he wants to do the legacy proud. You know what I mean? He wants to do right by what we've done so far. And I'm like, that's cool. Like listen to the songs, learn the songs. If you have questions about certain fills or that you think maybe are crucial, yeah, of course, there's certain things that like people are going to know and remember that you got to play. But for the most part, like, you play drums in this band the way you want to. And we did a couple of like live stream events back a few months back. And I mean, he crushed it, man. Like he's really made it his own. And it sounds just as good as it ever has,
Now the live stream things you were just talking about, is that where the video for Underrated came from?
Yeah.
We did like one take and just put the video out.
Yeah, well, we did two live stream events. One was a kind of a best of, which we premiered Underrated. It wasn't even released yet. So people, it was funny because they heard it one time and then it was gone for months. They're like, where did this song go? So that was, we took the edit that we got from the live stream, and then our bass player Porter actually did all of the video content for the live stream, like video wall. And so he went back and kind of did some cool overlays and accentuated some of the cool video parts that like you don't really get to see with kind of more chaotic camera angles. But that's where the video came from for that.
Yeah, because a lot of these bands nowadays, I just talked to Tim from Rise Against, and their latest video kind of has this live feel. And it's like, of course, none of us have really had this live experience in the last year or so. As a matter of fact, I just walked out here in the hub to the radio station. There's like 10 people out there. Like, I haven't seen that in a year, like just now. And so it's just a crazy feeling, but it's like the live video seems to be like a thing right now.
I feel like it's something in this day. I've always loved live videos because it's like, I love live music. I love seeing bands. So it's like, you get that glimpse of what they are, and we were so happy with how the live stream looked and like how the performance was captured that it was like, to us, it was entertaining, especially right now. It's like, if anyone wants to watch a band on the computer play live, it's now.
Yeah.
And it was a good contrast to like the Warrior video. The Warrior video is like 3 minutes of me getting the shit beat out of me. So it's like a very big contrast in vibe, so to speak. Yeah,
no doubt. So with this song Underrated, like the first thing I thought of right away is, your old singer's gone. Now you're in there and you are kind of like, well, for all intents and purposes, kind of reinventing the band, and you guys have a lot to prove.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that Underrated was actually the first track we wrote, with just the four of us, because Kyle came in kind of after the album was already recorded, and it was that kind of aha moment of like, okay, like we're gonna be okay. And we still, obviously people, it's nothing new to the listener because I've been singing for 20 years, and so has Porter, our bass player. He's been doing a lot of the heavier vocals for like 10 years. So it's like it's not a new sound. So for us, it was important that we kept that kind of like dual vocal dynamic and really kind of like kept a lot of the same infrastructure and like feeling that Atreyu still has. And Underrated is kind of that perfect example of like a really just blistering heavy song that has like all of the things that people might have been afraid that we would lose potentially,
Yeah, and obviously that's probably something you were cognizant of.
Honestly, I think the song got written and then we went like, oh, okay, this is that. It was like, you know what I mean? It was like, we didn't go to the grocery store with intention and a list. We went to the grocery store, and after we got home, we were like, oh yeah, this is what I needed.
Gotcha.
I don't know if that analogy makes sense, but
no, it does. It makes a lot of sense. But it's like, was that for like the whole record or just for that first song? You're like, okay, or after you write the record and you're in 8 or 9 songs, you're like, okay, this is gonna work.
I think we already had that idea, but we actually started this album with our previous singer. We got through about 70% of it and wrote it with him, and then we finished it on our own.
Gotcha.
The kind of shift happened kind of in the middle, and because obviously with COVID too, the recording process was split up in by 4 or 5 months. We started it in January of 2020. So we had kind of written, and obviously there was already boxes checked. You're always a band like us who has been started as like a more heavy hardcore band, but has gone more into the rock space over the last 15 years. Even though we've been more in the hard rock space for the last 15 years, there's still those people that are like confused when we don't write like a metal album. So it's like, you want to like, we love heavy music. So we always have a couple of each to check the boxes for our own personal taste. But Underrated was one of the ones that we wrote in the second kind of batch of songs that it was like, okay, this is going to be something for the fans that are, like I said before, it's like, this is a song to make them not worry. Not that you should ever worry about like art, but like, like people I think can hear Underrated. And because, Warrior is a massive rock anthem. You know what I mean? Right. There's like, it's heavy, there's moments, but there's no getting around it. It's a rock anthem. And that's what we wanted it to be. So like hearing that and then hearing Underrated can maybe make people be like, okay, I understand where they're going. Like, this is still going to be Atreyu. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like I was going to ask you about Warrior too, because that song's so kick-ass. You can imagine that one being used in like sports videos or something along those lines.
Yeah.
How do you get a guy like Travis Barker?
Dude, it kind of came really organically. I mean, John Feldman, who produced the album, obviously we've been making records with him for over a decade. And this is the third record we've done with him, and he works really closely with Travis on a lot of. He's done many of the Blink records and does a lot of projects with Travis. So he's kind of in and out of the house like pretty often, like a couple times a week. Just like, oh, what up, Travis? Like walk by and he's talking to John, and then he leaves. So when Warrior came up, the concept, I had the concept of wanting to do like a really big bridge that I wanted to feel like you were, mid bleachers at a high school football game. You know what I mean? Just like that energy of just that drums and that kind of like power. And I'm not a technically trained like marching dude. I was never in a marching band and never like was like a rudiment guy. I never did that. I was, like I said, meat and potatoes dude. They just want to like be like Animal from the Muppets and beat on drums. So like, I was like, I don't want to try and fake this because it's not going to sound how it's supposed to. Like I want to get someone that's real. And obviously I'm like, Travis he's so good at that. Like he kills that whole realm. And so he was stoked to do it. He came in, just laid down a bunch of just layers on layers on layers. And it sounds like you're like I wanted to, and you're in the middle of a football game. No,
it does. Yeah. Anthemic, I guess, is the perfect word to describe it.
For sure. I mean, a song like Warrior with the subject matter too, like sonically it needed to match the power of the lyric. You know what I mean? So that was a big thing to us. And I mean, I'm stoked. Literally, like we already saw it. It was on like an Aussie Rules football game commercial like a couple of weeks ago. We're like,
oh, it was really?
It has begun. Yeah, like so. I mean, we've had a lot of success with that kind of stuff with like with The Time Is Now on the last album, and it's like, like you write a song and you kind of just know you're like, I feel like this is going to go that direction again, and the record's not even out yet, so it's already going. So it's good to see. It's cool because it's like you see it on like a football commercial and you're like, yes, exactly. Like this is what it's for.
Right, exactly. Yeah, no, that was one of the first things I thought of when I heard that song. So you just mentioned like the pandemic, and you guys started writing in January and stuff. And without getting into too much the minutia or as much as you want to get into it, I don't know. Do you think with the pandemic or without the pandemic, maybe Alex would have stayed, or was he already kind of on his way out, or how does that work?
I think it would have. The situation would have been the same either way.
Okay.
I think that obviously when all the discussions started being had. The pandemic had like just started, and obviously like, you're having conversations with your team and it's like, okay, are we sure this is the time we want to do this? And it's like, the feelings and the decisions by all of us mutually, it's like they weren't going to go away or change because the world was in this state. So, in hindsight, it kind of gave us more time to really like properly think everything through and go through the whole process correctly and what we felt to be correctly, and kind of, have time to think about the rollout and exactly how we want to do things. So it was, it's the worst thing that's fucking ever happened to a lot of our lives, but in our band, like it did give us a moment to really kind of focus and do things the right way.
And do you think with the pandemic kind of shutting things down, it might have given you like a little bit of a chance as well to maybe work on your craft, leading this band and everything like that?
Yeah, I mean, everything kind of happens, everything in life happens for a reason. And whether it's shitty or not, everything kind of unfolds the way it's supposed to. And with the pandemic, obviously, we didn't have very many tours planned. We were wrapping up our album cycle for In Our Wake, and we were planning on putting out our next album in October of 2020. That was the original plan. So we were kind of
this one.
That would have been this record, but it would have
Okay.
came out this past October.
Gotcha.
And obviously the plans changed. Everything got shut down. We were already going into album mode, but because there was no shows on the horizon, no nothing. Obviously, I look into doing different things. Like I mentioned before, I've been on Twitch for about a year. Yesterday, actually, was my 1 year anniversary. And on Twitch, I'm just singing all the time for the most part. I have guests and kind of like a podcast kind of thing too, but I'm just singing songs. So for the past year, 3 days a week, I'm singing for 2 hours. You know what I mean? Singing Atreyu songs, singing Hell or High Water songs, singing like random ass, I'm doing like freaking U2 and the Backstreet Boys, like the most random stuff you could think of, because it's all part of the interaction. And it's really been able to give me a reason to just practice and like really, hone in on singing. And, the off times also giving me an opportunity to like hone in on like health too. And, starting working with a trainer and just like trying to be like the most healthy version of myself. Cause I know when I get out there, I have to run around big stages and do my thing. Like I got to be in tip top shape for that. Like sitting behind the drums is a different story. So those things have definitely offered me a lot of those positive, outlets.
Now, a couple more things here for you. First of all, I hear something in the background. You got kids running around back there or something?
I got two little ones. I got a 4-year-old and a 2.5-year-old. It's funny because in my headphones, I don't hear them that much, but like you can through the mic, it picks up everything. Yeah, they're like to party.
No, that's cool. What do they? I mean, they're obviously pretty young, so but it'll be cool in a few years when they actually kind of realize, what Dad does in it. I imagine.
I mean, it's crazy. They've grown up in it already. I mean, with my other band, Hell or High Water, my 4-year-old was born right before we started touring with that band. So she came out on her first tour at like 3-4 months, and she would be, out in the mix, like literally, like my wife would have her in the baby holder, like at merch asleep, like during our show, you know what I mean? Then she grew to like, she loves all her uncles and all that stuff. So they're very much in the mix. Like they cruise around, amphitheaters with their laminates and like, to run the show at, 2 years old. So they're already very much in there, but to them, it's just, oh, daddy's going to work. Daddy's going to work, so it's, but they think it's cool, but they don't fully get it yet. I don't think.
Yeah. And speaking of tours and stuff, do you guys have anything lined up for this year?
We're starting to talk. I think a lot of what people are seeing, coming, being announced now, and kind of your first looks of tours, or a lot of people that had stuff booked in 2020 already, which we didn't. So we're definitely talking about it and being really hopeful. I think some things are obviously we have some festival things that we're doing towards kind of in the fall, but we're hoping to get back out, hopefully by summer, at some capacity by summer, and then really crank it up next year if all keeps going in the direction that it's going.
Yeah, it's pretty wild to think, like when I was a kid growing up and stuff, I've talked about this before, but you had Hit Parade or magazines or something. Now you got the internet, and you're talking about Twitch. You can interact with the fans right away, but I guess the real interaction is really when you're on stage.
Exactly. There's nothing that touches that, period. And there's nothing that will ever replace it. There's cool substitutions that will get you there. You know what I mean? And will maybe like kind of scratch the itch, but there's nothing like it. And there's nothing like human interaction, and a rock show, especially like what we do, like that is pure human reaction and pure, just like feeling coming out of both ends. So there's nothing, you can't manufacture that in any other way. So
right,
we can't wait, man.
yeah. You and a million other bands, right?
Yeah.
All right, last thing here for you. I was going to bring this in today, and I totally forgot about it. But I actually have an autographed. Well, it's an autographed Atreyu hockey stick, but it's actually autographed by Henrik Zetterberg. How did you guys get into Easton hockey sticks? And this is, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago or something.
Is it like? Does it have the lead sails paper anchor art on it? Is like a skeleton on it and stuff?
Now I can't recall, but you know what
I think it is,
right?
Yeah, I think it is. Back when we did Lead Sales, this is over a decade ago. This is what, 13 years ago, whatever it was. But it was some sort of marketing campaign that our label came up with, where they did like a handful. It was like 25 or something, or maybe 50 of these Atreyu hockey sticks, and they're not playable, but it looks badass.
Yeah.
And I have one somewhere. So it's somewhere. But yeah, I think they kind of did like partnered with like some NHL players and like different stuff like that, where like the players would sign the sticks for like games, or like radio stations would kind of do combo things with like, their local team and like the station and the band. I thought it was awesome. I love anything like that. Like anything random. Like I remember when we did some pre-orders on our couple records ago, and the label at the time was like, yo, we can do anything on pre-order. Like we have this new thing where we can do anything. So we had like beach cruisers, like all this crazy stuff that was just like, what the hell? Like throw it up. Who cares? See if someone wants it. But I'm all about those cool little kind of, ticket items that like are random, like when you have why do you have an Atreyu hockey stick signed by a hockey player nonetheless?
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like, why does that exist? Like, because it was supposed
to. Yeah. I was just telling someone, it's like there's a little sticker on the blade that says, do not use, you can't play or something like that.
Shatter.
Yeah, right, exactly. But it was signed by Detroit Red Wing legend Henrik Zetterberg, which is super cool because probably an Easton guy.
Absolutely, that's badass. Yeah, I love that. I love that I haven't seen the integration there until this story, so I think that's really cool.
Yeah, no, it's one of the cool things that people will come in my rock room and I'll grab that stick and like point to things on the wall.
Yeah, this is it's on. I have in my wall right here. I have when you play the new House of Blues in Anaheim, they moved it in a couple years back, and it's kind of our hometown House of Blues, like a local House of Blues that we've always played. And when you sell out the show there, they make you a skate deck.
Oh,
so cool. the whole backstage is lined with skate decks from the sold out shows. And like, so I have this skate deck. I'm like, I think that's the coolest thing ever, with like, it's, like 12, 13, 18 sold out House of Blues, like with our artwork on it. It's like, that's freaking cool. Like a skateboard. Because like, I'd rather get a skateboard because we sold out a show than like a little trophy or something. That's awesome.
I know here in Detroit, like Kid Rock has like a banner. He sold out, a couple of the arenas like 20 times or something. Bob Seger puts up a banner,
Yeah.
But I was going to say, so your kids are 2 and 4. My kids are now, graduating from high school. One's in their second year of college. And it's like, I saved all this stuff from my 30 years in radio because I thought that one day my kids were going to think I was the biggest loser on the planet. So do you save stuff like that as well?
I mean, yeah, my wife's better at that than I am. She's got like bins of our old flyers and old, laminates and things from tours and just little keepsakes. And I've always been really bad with that kind of stuff, but I'm glad she does it because she'll like go be organizing stuff and be like, "Whoa, remember this?" And it just like flashback, like blast me into the past. So I think all that stuff's cool. You got to keep, you don't have to keep everything, but there's so much. What we do, both of us, there's so many cool interactions and little things like a hockey stick or whatever it may be that will come across your path. It's like, that stuff's going to be awesome to somebody 30 years from now, Well, like I told Tim from Rise Against, so there's many situations I'm in sometimes where I'm thinking to myself, do they know I'm just like, a country kid? It's like, I shouldn't be here right now, and it's like, whatever rock star that you grew up idolizing or whatever the case is, For sure.
You've been in those situations before where you're at a festival. Next thing you know, you're talking to one of your idols or something,
Yeah, exactly. I'm blanking on who it was. I was doing another interview with, I don't know if it was radio or just, I think it was another radio interview. And the guy was like, yeah, my kid like came up to me like, a couple weeks ago and was like, "Oh, Dad, like, have you ever heard of Papa Roach?" And it was like, do you know what I do? Like, do you understand what I do? Like, you have no idea what I do. Like, you came to me and asked if I've ever heard of Papa Roach. It's like, you have probably interviewed them 70 times. I've met them 30. I've seen them play 100 times. Like, over the last 20 years, this is funny. Like, but like, kids don't know. They don't care.
Well, my kids are at the stage of the game right now where they think they think probably I met everyone and talked to everyone. Yes. I'm saying, but I still got a couple more to check off the list. But that's the way I suppose.
You're still going, so you'll get all those checks boxed.
There you go,
boxes checked.
Yeah, right, exactly. Well, that too. So, hey, Brennan, thanks so much for the time. Atreyu's Baptized comes out on June 4th, and looking forward to that. And maybe we'll see you on a stage near us sometime soon.
God, I hope so. Absolutely, man. Thanks for having me.